And we're back. So good evening, guys. Welcome to our Thursday night edition of Generational Change.
I'm Jen.
I'm Peter. And for those of you who are joining us directly from Status Quo, we really appreciate you being here. And for our regular, although as you've pointed out, Jen, there is a lot of crossover between our two channels already.
Yeah,
and make sure that you have already hit the like button. If you haven't already, please do. Make sure that you share the stream. And if you're not currently subscribed, please make sure that you are. Every little bit counts. And we've been noticing a little bit of an uptick, haven't we?
You know, I like to say a rising tide lifts all boats.
As long as it's the right boat.
Well, yeah.
Well, sure. We're all appreciative of everybody being here. And of course, we all hope that every one of you had, yes, Henry, it is a double crossover. Aurora Borealis is letting it fly tonight, baby. She's in the spirit of the holidays and really wants to, two memberships?
That's so nice. Thank you. Yes, it's a very good, like if you need a belated sort of holiday festive gift, it's nice. Gift memberships. It's great.
Festive.
We used to do the festive, but then now Jerry is dead to me. And so therefore we cannot celebrate Festivus anymore.
Well, we could tell you somebody who isn't dead, but is also wanting to probably join the revolutionary bandwagon. Maybe.
Well, let's just say we can still have an airing of our grievances.
Oh, we have somebody to air grievances with. This is probably the perfect person to air grievances with.
I know. I love airing grievances with Steve. We have a lot of grievances. I have a lot of problems with you people.
And now you're going to hear about it. You know him from Status Quo News. You know him from Generational Change. And of course, you know him from the Real Progressives. And you really know him from the Macro and Cheese podcast. A very Merry Christmas and soon to be New Year. Steve Grumbine, welcome back to Generational Change.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys and gals.
Hi, happy holiday season to you.
Indeed. I'm trying.
Is it snowy?
No, we had a little bit, I think it was the day before Christmas or the 2 days before Christmas, but no snow. It's been warm, actually, weirdly warm.
Oh, there's nothing to see here. No climate crisis. There's nothing to see here. Look away.
I am that guy, though, that wears flip-flops and shorts and like -2-degree weather. So what can I say? That is
as long as the central cavity is protected, you actually can go out in shorts and Crocs if that's what you choose to do.
I don't choose that, but I avoid Crocs like the plague.
So
sometimes
funny.
That's all you got, but yes.
Don't look at me. I'm a Birkenstock girl.
Good God. Birkenstocks. Let's go to freaking
Let me tell you, I have been wearing Birkenstocks continuously since 1988. And I have not gone without having a current pair since then.
I might have to get on the Birkenstock bandwagon.
You must. Have you never tried Birkenstocks?
You know what? The closest thing I ever came was like Hush Puppies. And I'm not even sure that qualifies as close. So, no, I haven't. Never done Birkenstocks.
But don't mistake Hush Puppies for a very tasty treat, Southern style. It's like cornmeal, I think, what they're made out of.
You know what a Hush Puppy is? Of course, it's fried cornbread balls.
Yeah, because they're
essentially balls of cornbread that are deep fried. How could that be bad?
That sounds extremely healthy. I think I'll have two while we're at it. So we have a lot of different places that we can start. But since we are getting the Status Quo audience to join us, we did say that we would play this clip of Reverend Isaac.
Okay, yeah.
The Palestinian priest who gave his sermon on Christmas Day in Bethlehem. For those of you who know anything about religion, even if it's just a little bit, Jesus of Nazareth was born in Bethlehem, assuming he was real. And if he was, this is where he's from. He's also not white, and we have to continue to point that out, even though the whitewashing has been done for many, many years.
As long as Santa's white, it's all fine by me. But once you start messing with that fictional character, then I'm really upset.
Don't mess with jolly old
Saint Black Santa.
Steve, have you ever been jolly old Saint Nick once before?
I'm frequently confused for him. No. No, I have
You know
not.
what's amazing? When I first started watching you, like seriously, and it feels like it was yesterday. You were still dark hair, no beard.
Yep.
And it wasn't that long ago, but now, yeah, like you could kind of be like a very kind of chill, hipster looking Santa. I could see that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
down. I'm down. True story, just to tell you how like I'm trying to vibe into this 55. It's hard. It's really hard. Okay. I'm sitting there in a football shit talking group just so I can break out and have a little bit of zen to get away from all this.
By the way, thank you for kicking the Eagles' ass. I have to thank you for that one.
That's where it comes from. So some Eagles fan, and I live in Pennsylvania, okay, but I'm a Commanders guy. But some freaking Eagles fan says, "What the hell are you doing in here gabbing at us in a group, man? You're 50-some years old, you old man. Get the hell out of here." I was like, done, dead. I was just like, I can't believe somebody broke out. I'm like, oh my God, am I really that fucking old? Do I have to start doing the touch of gray shit, or can I just go gray, gracefully? Or is there no grace to gray? I don't know, man. But
no, there is for men. Men,
I don't know, man. I got told. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, by a 15-year-old.
Probably. No, he was a military guy or something. So whatever.
Butthead incel probably told you.
Probably for sure.
Right. So I saw somebody in the chat say Bad Santa, and I could see that. That's pretty funny too. Also a great Christmas movie. Yesterday, I alternated between my two favorite Christmas movies, which is one, A Christmas Story, and the other one is The Holiday. Those are my two favorite Christmas movies. And they were both on consistently yesterday, so it was quite good.
You'll shoot your eye out.
I do love that.
I did 0 Christmas movies. I watched Dune, the part 2. I watched Dune part 2, and I watched Gladiator part 2. And that was my Christmas season. Yes, I normally do try to watch the Mel Gibson classic, The Passion. I do just on Christmas. It's like a thing that I've done for a long time, but I didn't this year. Interesting. It was my first without my mom.
On Christmas Eve, because what's a Jew to do, and my husband and son were off doing manly things on their friend's property, like shooting and axe throwing and whatever they're doing. I don't know. So I went to go see the Bob Dylan movie. And
was it any good? That's the same guy that's in Dune.
Okay, so and I'm ready to give like my assessment of the Bob Dylan movie, and as somebody who grew up like listening to Dylan and a huge Dylan fan, and I've seen him live several times. So like the music was great. I mean, like, what's there to say? But the movie was really kind of non-existent. There really wasn't much there. It gave this guy, I guess, Timothy Chalamet, or whatever his name is, it gave him an opportunity to really channel Dylan. And he did, like his mannerisms, his everything. I mean, he really did a good job doing it. But there was so little plot. There was like nothing really happened. It was just him performing. And again, the music is great. But I didn't get really any character development, no real plot, no real backstory. It wasn't like Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocket Man, where they did like a really good sort of background. And there was none of that. It was literally just watching him between 61 and like 67 or whatever, just gradually pull the folk music scene slowly into more rock. But there was no real... I don't know. He was good, but there was no story there. No, there was no story. It was nothing.
To be fair, I've pivoted ever so slightly. I had totally pushed out all the music that I had been listening to recently and went on a nothing but Syd Barrett level, Pink Floyd journey. And so I went through like the Pipers at the Gates of Dawn era, and then I went through some of the Echoes, and then I went to the Live in Pompeii, and then I just started drilling deeper and deeper and deeper into all the Floyd stuff. And boy, you talk about what a fucking waste to see Waters and freaking scumbag Zionist Gilmore. I mean, I love Gilmore's music. I can't help but love it. But my God, that we were born in such a good time, but we were just a little bit late, man. We didn't get to really get that feel, that 60s. I wish I would have been born in 69, maybe 59. I'd be off the planet sooner, but God, the music would have been so much better, man.
Yeah, no, one of my favorite things to do is watch reaction channels. So I like watching younger people react to good music that I really like. And it never because you can just listen to your music, but there's something so satisfying about watching someone else really like, for me, nothing pleases me more than watching people hear my favorite song, which is Supertramp Goodbye Stranger, for the very first time, and watching people's faces when they hear certain songs. It's just the best.
It is the best. I do watch.
You know what I mean? Do you ever watch
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's some lady named Ashley something or other. She's got dark hair. She used to be a pro volleyball player, whatever. But I saw her do a review of Animals and Dark Side of the Moon and all. And I just sat there. I was like, I'm so, you got it. You got the part. She's crying at the right spot. She's like into it. And I'm like, thank you. Why are not a million more people like you? Because that's where my tribe, man. They're crying. They're loving the music.
Right. It's satisfying. It's very satisfying. I know. Yes. That's my guilty pleasure on YouTube. I watch reaction channels when I'm not watching. I'll go and I alternate literally back and forth. I'll go from watching Ben Norton give basically my primer on what's going on in Syria, and I'll sit there and ingest that for a while. And then I'll flip over and watch this young Black dude listen to Dolly Parton for the first time and think that's the coolest thing ever. This is like this is how I have to free the brain.
I'm with you. This will be the first weekend coming up that we have not released a podcast on Macro and Cheese in 5-6 years. No joke. We have released one every Saturday morning. We decided somewhere, getting that arms are long, like you've been carrying a load kind of feeling. So it's like, we're going to give everybody a 1 week respite and come back ready to fight following week. So I'm excited about it. It's nice to decompress and literally not give a flying F for a minute. And, got to spend quality time with my kids, got to spend some time, just doing things I needed to do. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't for it, but I'm pretty happy we did it. So there you go.
I think that's important. If we lived in any other country, that would be normal.
This ain't any other country.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm with the whole paid holiday, whatever 2 months that they get in other places or whatever, all that.
This is the greatest country in the history of the world, and we don't take any time off. So,
well, don't you remember when W thought it was so great that woman was working 3 jobs, and he's like, "Oh, that's so great in America, man! Oh, that's awesome!"
Wasn't that the Mitt Romney story? Didn't Mitt Romney love that? Wasn't he up there giving his? What a glorious time it was.
That was W, where and in particular, where he was like, thought that was so cool. Only in America, man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Not
24/7. You're really on it, guy. Go for it, man. Be all you can be.
Also, a big shout out to the Gomez family, new YouTube member. Thank you so much. Right. And our friend Wanker.
Gomez's. Do you say Gomez's? Gomez-I? Hi, Gomez's.
No, Gomez. It's Gomez.
No, but if you're referring to a group of them as a plural, what do you say?
Gomez's.
Exactly, Gomez's.
Wanker Tanker, thank you for joining us. Please consider having on Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. Jen?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to have. I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
we could try to get Rabbi Ben Shapiro on. See what that conversation.
God.
All right. So what are we going to talk about, gang? I'm loving the movie talk. I can do that the rest of the hour.
No. We actually brought you on because there is an MMT situation.
We will definitely talk.
I haven't seen this movie.
We'll have some social commentary at the end, which I think is important. But for those of you who are here, we did say on Status Quo that we were going to discuss, and we'll discuss first, that we're going to jump into the MMT story. But I think it's very important that we do cover this. Probably the most, you could call it gut-wrenching. I call it more heartfelt. But
yeah, the sermon. Let's watch the sermon.
It's impactful a sermon, because remember, Christmas is really about keeping Jesus in Christmas. So if we're going to do that, let's do it the right way, not the
right Jesus. Go ahead.
Here's the speech yesterday from Bethlehem, birth of Jesus, Mr. Reverend Isaac.
What kind of a world and future we are leaving our children if we accept a reality where war criminals go unpunished, even actually emboldened, where they openly boast of their crimes, and rather than met with justice, they are met with applauses in the halls of Congress and defended by European parliaments. This is what's happening today. And they still dare to lecture us on human rights and international law. They tell us never again. Never again to us is only a slogan. It's actually empty words, honestly. Because never again should mean never again to all peoples. Never again has become yet again. Yet again to supremacy. Yet again to racism. And yet again to genocide. And sadly, never again has become yet again for the weaponization of the Bible and the silence and complicity of the Western Church. Yet again for the church siding with power, the church siding with the empire. And so today, after all this of total destruction and annihilation, and Gaza is erased, unfortunately, millions have become refugees and homeless, tens of thousands killed. And why is anyone still debating whether this is a genocide or not? I can't believe it. Yet even when church leaders simply call for investigating whether this is a genocide, he is called out and it becomes breaking news. Friends, the evidence is clear. Truth stands plain for all to see. The question is not whether this is a genocide. This is not the debate. The real question is, why isn't the world and the church calling it a genocide? It says a lot when you deny and ignore and refrain from using the language of genocide. It says a lot. It actually reveals hypocrisy. For you lectured us for years on international laws and human rights. Never again should mean never again to all peoples. Never again has become yet again. Yet again to supremacy. Yet again to racism. And yet again to genocide. And sadly, never again has become yet again for the weaponization of the Bible and the silence and complicity of the Western Church. Yet again for the church siding with power, the church siding with the empire. And so today, after all this of total destruction and annihilation, and Gaza is erased, unfortunately, millions have become refugees and homeless, tens of thousands killed. And why is anyone still debating whether this is a genocide or not? I can't believe it. Yet even when church leaders simply call for investigating whether this is a genocide, he is called out and it becomes breaking news. Friends, the evidence is clear. Truth stands plain for all to see. The question is not whether this is a genocide. This is not the debate. The real question is, why isn't the world and the church calling it a genocide? It says a lot when you deny and ignore and refrain from using the language of genocide. This says a lot. It actually reveals hypocrisy. For you lectured us for years on international laws and human rights. It reveals your hypocrisy. It says a lot on how you look at us Palestinians. It says a lot about your moral and ethical standards. It says everything about who you are when you turn away from the truth, when you refuse to name oppression for what it is. Or could it be that they're not calling it a genocide? Could it be that if reality was acknowledged for what it is, that it is a genocide, then that it would be an acknowledgement of your guilt? For this war was a war that was so many defended as just and self-defense. And now you can't even bring yourself to apologize. We said last year, Christ is in the rubble. And this year we say, Christ is still in the rubble. The rubble is his manger. Jesus finds his place with the marginalized, the tormented, the oppressed, and the displaced. We look at the Holy Family and see them in every displaced and homeless family living in despair. In the Christmas story, even God walks with them, and calls them his own. So today, let us reflect on the child Jesus, the child of Bethlehem. At the heart of the incarnation, there is a child. And this child, in his weakness, he is our hope. He is our consolation. He is our strength. This child, let us remember, this child shook Herod's throne when he was born. And while there are some who talk about the Roman Empire or glorify Herod as great, we are the ones who sing of a child born to refugees escaping a massacre. Yes, it has been 440 days. It is 440 days of Palestinians' resilience, Sumud. Indeed, it is 76 years of Sumud. But we have not and will not lose hope. Yes, it is 76 years of an ongoing Nakba, but it is also 76 years of Palestinian Sumud, clinging to our rights and justice of our cause. 76 years of praying and singing for peace. I was thinking about it. We are stubborn people. We continue to pray for peace year after year after year and sing about peace, and we will continue to do so. And we will continue to echo the words of the angels, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth.
Powerful stuff.
How many days now? How many days?
What do you say? 440, I guess, was when when he gave that.
How many dead innocent children?
Well, we don't know. I have said
number
from the beginning,
bounced all
I do
over.
not see how this ends without 2.2 million dead bodies in the desert. That's what I don't, and I think they're waiting for that to happen. And then they're just going to bulldoze over and just build whatever they're going to build and expand.
The importance of this message is to not let anybody, as you've said, Jen, no one in a position of power, especially in this current system that we sit in, should ever have a moment's peace. They should be reminded on a day, and that's the thing. It's like, can't you wait a day? Can't you let us have our Christmas?
No.
You don't deserve anything. In fact, on Christmas is when you should have it driven right through your brain harder than any other day.
Exactly.
While you're sitting around, cozy, by the fire, family, nestled with your presents and your eggnog and God knows what else, probably some drugs too, that lets you get by. This stuff could easily end, but the privilege of this country, of this culture, is so deep and so immense. And the hypocrisy is real. And so I don't think it's too much of a leap when we compare what's going on in Palestine with what's going on with Luigi Mangione. There are these signs around us all the time that say that the opportunity to completely take this system down and turn it into something else is right there in front of us right now. And it could happen. But people have to recognize that this is a class war, nothing more. If they do recognize that, and I think a lot of them are starting to get it, maybe there is some hope. But right now, as they say, night is darkest just before the dawn. I don't know if dawn's around the corner, but it's pretty fucking dark right now. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep the infuriated at bay. For a long, long time, I have talked. In fact, last time I was on this show, I spoke specifically about it's not a matter of not having hope. It's a matter of placing your hope in things that can do something. And all this bullshit about we're going to vote for a few more progressives and we're going to do this. And it has me so insane. That's the part that makes me really rage, right? There is literally, all I can do, if anybody ever wants to try and say some stupid shit to me, like, oh, we got to vote for Democrats, what do you want, Trump, or some bullshit like that, I'll just merely point to AOC, who literally sold out the world for a seat at the table with shit libs. And she sat there in an empty room and was left behind for some dude that's got like stage 4 cancer. Okay. Some old gerontocracy driven idiot They put him in front rather than her. Why? First of all, I wouldn't want her. I don't know any real genuine leftists that support AOC anymore. Only shit libs support AOC now. Okay. And to watch this and to understand that there is no electoral path forward isn't giving up hope. It isn't nihilism. It's literally understanding the world you're living in. And when you see, I will go back every day and watch video after video after video of people being blown to shreds in Gaza, watching kids and teachers, alumni, etc., show up on campuses and say, stop this. Go to the deans of the schools and say, stop funding Israel. Stop funding this. Cut off these things. And watching them say, no, we're going to do what we're going to do. And then bring out the jackbooted thugs. And by the way, fucking idiots, it wasn't Trump in office. It was Biden. Horrible, evil bastards. It was Biden. So this whole thing about we're just gonna vote for Democrats and everything will be better because how horrible Donnie Tiny Hands is and all horrible. But the whole thing is corrupt. The whole thing is failing us. The police are not there for our protection. They're there to protect capital. They're there to protect property, private property. They're not there to protect us. So when I see a guy like Luigi, who was born in privilege, say, I've had enough of this, because even, it's bad when even the well-to-do are pinched by the very capitalist system that gave them a better life. And so we're at a different place now. The problem is that most of society doesn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to hear about Gaza. They just wanted you to vote for Harris. They didn't want to hear about any of the other shit with people dying, with the kids getting beaten by the cops, because they just wanted you to vote for Harris. They just wanted to avoid Donnie Tiny Hands because that's the realm of their entire worldview was Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I'm telling you, Trump's horrible, but he's just part of the fucking machine. The same machine that has been literally gutting programs, gutting our ability to take care of one another, cutting government spending. And guess what? They get big checkpoints because they're ending wokeness. They're attacking the woke. Oh, they're so courageous. We're going to go after the gays. We're going to go after the super black people. And we're going to go after those weirdos that think that terrorists are good people. The wokes, right? The fucking perversion. No, that's what all you have to do is spend 5 minutes with these idiot savants, and they're like, the wokes, the woke, the woke. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
You know what I've started doing when people say that? I'm like, you're right. I so prefer the sleep. Oh my God. I so prefer the sleeping. Oh my God. You were so right. Oh my God.
So
why is it?
When I see this though, Jen, I watch you. I shared the outcome of your election to a bunch of places. I was like, if you thought that getting somebody who is an anti-Zionist, progressive, all these things, if you thought that would win an election against the machine, let me show you exactly how disparate the results are in the real world. In the real world, where that shit doesn't really happen.
No.
Okay? And they can't get it through their head that, well, we're just going to have to door knock harder. We're going to have to phone bank more. We got to donate more money we don't have. We just got to double down on this shit. Fucking can't stand. And you know what? This is the sad part. This is the part that will crush souls. It's not just about the duopoly. The duopoly is part of a system. The system itself is going to block 400th parties, 9,000th parties, 2 millionth parties. It doesn't fucking matter.
Right. It's not a party problem.
It's not a party. It is the system. And so every time I tell some poor doe-eyed person, listen, the hope ain't in electoral politics, they're like, but do you want people to lose hope, Steve? In that, yes. I want you to stop wasting your fucking time over here and swing it over here, because what Luigi did, whether he's a revolutionary or just a fucking dude that had enough or whatever his real story is, whatever that real story is that we will probably never really get to know, okay, doesn't matter, because he could be you or I, okay? At the end of the day, poor, rich, whatever, The system is built in such a way that it's tearing down society. It's tearing us all down, all in the name of the few benefiting through capitalism and the many getting fucked out of it so that the rich can have their cake and eat it too. And until you stop voting for, I mean, maybe what we'll do is we'll pay Congress critters more money so that regular people can run for office. That'll be the trick. Sure, it'll work then. The Democratic machine will let them win. They will. They honestly will. And they're just so childlike in their understanding. And so this is my fear, my concern, is that while they're cheering Luigi on, they're not really willing to do anything other than go down to the local voting booth and put the I voted sticker on their forehead and then walk away and go back to life going, yeah, Luigi. And it's like, that's good. Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's something more, and it's been going on for a long time. For years now, I've said it, and for years I've been ridiculed by people who thought that I was like, well, Steve, you just crazy, man. What are you gonna? You're not voting your way. Like if my idea isn't the right idea, even doesn't even matter. The one you think you're going to do by voting for a few more progressives is never going to work, period. So whether that's the right answer or not is irrelevant. The point is it can't be done. So you got to do something else. And unfortunately, every person I talk to is scared shitless to actually calm down, breathe in, and say, okay, what do we do now? Let's talk.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I look at it like, until more people take the red pill and join us in, ironically, Zion, until more people join us there and come out of the matrix, until we outnumber the matrix, we're going to continue to be stuck. So basically it's like we're trying, but I do feel like we are making progress in that awakening. And in that, I do. I mean, I've seen it even just the past 5 years. I do feel like we are seeing it. And it's just a matter of they are also the oligarchs are also seeing it. And they're upping their control and their cop city. And they're preparing for what they recognize is starting to happen. So really, this is the revolution. But yeah, it's not coming from electoral politics. No. However, at a local level, it does affect your regular life. I will say that we do have things like that do happen in terms of people's local politics. But no, capitalism is the problem, and the system is completely based on it. And that until people understand that, we're on the hamster wheel until there's more of us in Zion.
That's right.
Well, I think more and more people are waking up to that reality. And one of those realities, Steve, which you have talked about at great length, is understanding how our economic system really works. Yeah. There is this misconception about modern monetary theory that you can just print your way to success, kind of like you can tax your way to success. No, that's not what it is. What it is that it's basically the opposite of what you think. People think that tax dollars funds the government, when in reality, the government prints the money. It gets spent into the economy, and we are taxed as a result. Now, the problem that we have is we don't have a say in how that money is spent. The money is spent in such a way, as I've often said, that the difference between, we'll say, think of welfare as an example. When you think about having an economic boost, you want to be on a trampoline, not on quicksand. The idea is to make the economy work for you like a trampoline. So if we have, let's say, for example, a single-payer healthcare system, what we now have is a trampoline. People that are sick can get the help that they need. People that are sick do not have to rely on their job for that health care. So they have a lot more economic freedom to do what is in their best interests. These are all just very simple layers of what is perceived to be a very complicated system. But in reality, the system is not complicated at all. It's people that are complicated. And trying to rally everybody together to see the system for what it really is not an easy thing to do. But oftentimes, if you make a really good documentary, for example, then the message can potentially get out there. And as we know,
I haven't seen this.
Stephanie Kelton's a pretty good messenger. So we're going to play you guys a fairly lengthy clip, but we're going to comment on it. So this is how you follow the money.
Give me 45 minutes, it's a little tougher. If they give me an hour and a half, I can almost convince the whole crowd. With 2 hours, everybody's pretty comfortable with the ideas. So much of the public discourse, it's like we're going through life with one eye shut and one eye open, and we're only getting half the picture. And then somebody like me comes in and says, well, let's make sure we see the full picture. When politicians talk about spending more money on healthcare for all, inequality, housing, or our climate crisis, the first question they're usually confronted with is, how in the world could we possibly spend more? We're already trillions in the hole. And people point to the size of the national debt.
We must begin to make some payments on our enormous national debt if we are to avoid passing on to our children an impossible burden of debt.
People don't make the connection that the national debt is nothing but all these safe assets. It's just our savings. You could take the national debt clock that scares everyone and just rename it the US dollar savings clock. And I think everybody would have a very different kind of reaction.
So why have they been successfully able to convince everybody that our economy is going to collapse because we are so far in debt? And it's not just corporate media, Steve. I'm sure you see plenty of channels that fall into that trap, and they buy right into a hook sinker.
Wait a second. Yep. Can we give a better intro to what this clip is from so that people who are watching this know what it's from? And then I would also like to know if, Steve, have you seen this? Like, I don't know anything about this. So can you?
Yeah, I can.
Can you give a better intro? Give a better
so
intro.
Stephanie Kelton. Yes, Stephanie Kelton was the economic advisor to Bernie Sanders in both of his unsuccessful presidential runs. She was also the chief economist for the minority Democrats. Bernie Sanders brought her with him to the Senate Budget Committee. So she has been very, very close to power for a number of years now. And she is one of the first 1B generation of MMTers. Like there was Warren Mosler, Bill Mitchell, Randall Wray, and then Stephanie came in there shortly thereafter. Matt Forstater was one of them in the beginning. Scott Fulweiler was second generation, etc. So Stephanie, her whole thing was she came to prove that MMT was bullshit. She was like, this is crazy. Of course, taxes fund spending. And so for her doctoral paper, she did the research and she found out, in fact, that no, the government spends money into existence and then taxes a little bit out of it, that bonds are merely existing US dollars in the economy that someone put into a time box savings account and earned a nominal interest on. But the problem is that we as regular people have been convinced that we are broke, that we don't have enough money in our bank accounts. So how could the government possibly have money? So they've been convinced by, everyone from Shama Sawant to Jill Stein, our friends on the left, all the way over to Donald Trump, all of them, Obama, Clinton, all of them, every last one of them. Now we'll say some of them are just fucking liars and others are just ignorant or full cups. Full cups meaning they think they got it all going on and they don't need to learn more. So they don't need to hear all this shit about taxes, not funded spending, and they're moving on. And, I don't want to take shots at any, friendlies, but there are some strays that'll get fired because they're part of the problem. Richard Wolff, part of the problem.
It drives me crazy. Okay? You know, when I hear it because of you, I correct it all the time, but now it's like fingernails. It's like fingernails on the blackboard every time someone says it. And I just say, can we just say our collective resources? Can we call it our collective resources? Stop saying tax dollars.
Public money. It's just public money. And see, this stems from a period of time where Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher in particular, talked about there is no such thing as public money. There is only taxpayer dollars.
Exactly.
Now, here's the problem.
That's bad.
The vast majority of people cannot fathom that when they send money to FICA for Social Security, or they send money to other taxes, that the government doesn't need their coupon. Imagine being Sbarro's. I'm going to use Sbarro's for this real quick. You're out there, the dude's standing on the corner handing out 50-cent coupons, and Sbarro's is like, oh my God, what am I going to do? We don't have enough 50-cent coupons. We're going to go broke. When they're the creator of the fucking 50-cent coupon. This is the same thing about the U.S. government. The U.S. government needs us to need their dollar. So what do? They impose an obligation payable only in that dollar so that you have to have it. And that is how they enslave the world with debt peonage through the IMF. That's how they enslave us by doing it. If they were us, if the government really was representing us, okay, then the government itself would be an extension of our collective will, but it's not.
Right.
Okay. And so this is where the MMT lens, it's just a lens. It's not like, will they implement MMT? Will they not implement? MMT describes what's happening, period. It describes the fiat system. And unfortunately, all anyone has ever seen is shitty capitalist neoliberals running the economy. They've never seen a MMT informed leftist run the economy. And God forbid you let some of the other left do it. They're ready to bring back the gold standard because they just don't fucking understand money. Okay. So this documentary is it's all in its own about the deficit myth, about reducing the deficit, and all the different, you see some really big names come through the door. You're going to see a lot of.
Is this new? This movie?
It's probably about 2 years old now. Okay. A good friend, Marin Poitras, was filming this thing back at the last MMT conference, which was at Stony Brook, pre-COVID. I was interviewed. She came to my house interview. I did not make the final cut. I'm on the cutting room floor somewhere. But there was a lot of us got cut out of it, to be fair. They narrowed it down, and pretty much made it a story of Stephanie Kelton. Yes, there are some other faces in there, but for the most part, they trimmed out everybody except for a handful, and it focused on Stephanie Kelton, and which is okay because Stephanie has been the one dealing with all these politicians, and she's the one that wrote the book. And so this movie is in essence tying together with her book, The Deficit Myth. This is called Finding the Money. Okay. And she took this video to all the different independent carnival, or what do they call them? You know, the Cannes or all the different film festivals, and it kept getting awards. It kept getting more funding. And so finally now it's out and everybody can get to it. It's a really good movie. I obviously they were doing it in a way that was meant to be seeker friendly. So there's a lot of things in there that she doesn't like come out with a bolo and hit you over the head with a hammer. It's very gentle. It's funny. There's some really humorous moments throughout where they absolutely destroy many of your favorite economists, just decimate them. And I love it, every second of it.
Where is this? Where can people watch this?
You can see it on YouTube. You can get it on Hulu, I think, Apple TV, I believe. You can get it. You can get it anywhere. I think you can even get it on Amazon. I think you can buy it off of any other streaming service. I do know for sure you can get it on YouTube. And I think you can buy a hard
copy. And this is
a
trailer. This is a trailer. No,
this is a bunch of clips from the movie, and we will.
Well, let's go ahead and watch it. We can stop, but this beginning part was really important. I hope my description didn't take away from that, because right off the bat, she's starting to try and fill in some gaps for people, and hopefully they have people will pay attention, because she does know what she's talking about. Me and her are not politically aligned. But we are definitely economically aligned.
Right.
That's good.
And so I think 95% of the problems that we have getting better policy is probably down to the words we use to describe what's actually happening.
Today, I nominate Jared Bernstein, an old friend who's been with me a long time, a brilliant thinker.
White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein joins us now from the White House.
Thanks so much. The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, I mean, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do?
How badly can you fail a lie detector test?
So I want you to understand something. Jared Bernstein is an important dude, man. This is like Biden's guy. This is like Obama's guy. These are the Democrats. Well, his economist said this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? Like people trot out
of the Council of Economic Advisors. This is the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the President of the United States, and he cannot make a complete sentence and answer the question.
No, and let me tell you something. The most painful part of this, and I had to close the chat out because I'm watching people that I can tell clearly don't understand anything about the banking system. But this is the yin yang though, right? This is the important part. Their cup is so full that they can't handle new information.
It's hard.
And they're busy telling you what's going on when literally there's expert stuff going on right now. There's stuff, important stuff. Now, I am a lay person, but I have done so much with these people, with the absolute best of the best economists in the world. And what happens in this video is so important that if you think you know what you're talking about and you don't know everything that happens in this video, you've just screwed the pooch and screwed yourself out of learning something really important. So my ask would be to take your full cup, pour it out on the floor for a minute, and let some new information enter into it. Okay? Just listen. And because what's happening is too many people that think they know, they're running around the fire pit. Yeah, the Rothschilds and blah, blah, blah. And they just can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. The creature from Jekyll Isle, the this, the that. They can't help themselves.
I know.
And it's so important to get past. You got to leave them behind, man. But there's so many of them. It's like a zombie horde. It's like World War Z hitting the wall. And it's just, that's what you're up against. They're not listening. They don't want to hear. So the ability to change it because they're not hearing is next to nil. That is the biggest chasm with fixing society is this, I know everything, I'm full cup, and I don't need to hear more.
I know.
And I hope that changes. Anyway.
Yeah, this guy's upsetting. Anyway.
Let's keep going.
They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to let's see. They print money and they use that money to. They sell bonds. They borrow. I guess I'm just. I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money, does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So. I don't think there's anything confusing there.
I'm so concerned right now. I mean, and I'm normally not thrown, but I got to tell you something, like seriously, I will always very, very easily admit, and I've told you this many times, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I accept that I'm just never going to understand it. And that's okay. The truth is, I don't need to completely understand it to know that it's a scam and to be able to trust who I trust, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? But this guy sounds worse than me. And I can't tell you how horrifying that is. Like, he has less of an understanding of it than I do. Yep. And I stupid about economics. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is horrifying.
Yep.
If anything, this should be even more encouragement towards modern monetary theory.
Well, when you realize that the established, see, for me, my rationale, my reasoning for getting people to understand MMT is not that, hey, we're just going to elect a few more progressives and we're going to make it rain, you know? That's not it at all. It's literally 100% to show people that we could do great things, but we're not. And it's not because you voted for the wrong people, because you've probably voted 1,000,000 times in your life, or 1,000, 100, or whatever it is. And in the end, you've seen nothing but a rightward shift. You've seen nothing. I mean, the idea that we're seeing any kind of progress for us as people is absolutely ludicrous. If you can tell me the ACA is a complete failure, there's nothing to celebrate there.
No, it did. It helped them. It was very successful in doing what it was supposed to do.
Yes. But the point is that when people heard about the ACA, they were thinking we all have health care.
No.
They didn't process the fact that this was a handout to capitalism, a handout to insurance companies. This is why you will never see a public option or Medicare for all, because the entire system is one big giant fire hose to those wealthy people, like that CEO that Luigi blew away. Thank God. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Until you understand the way the system really works, and not get all your bullshit from Ron Paul, okay? Until you understand the way the system really works, you won't know what you're fighting against, and you won't be able to battle. And that's what I think is so important, is we need to wake people up by showing them the very fountainhead. I'll use a libertarian friendly thing. The fountainhead from which all this shit comes from.
It's my favorite book. It's my most favorite book of all time.
My most favorite book to burn.
No, it's a great book. It's not a theory for life.
Let's keep going. Okay. Let's keep going.
All right.
We were always asking ourselves the question, do conventional economists understand what we're speaking of, but yet not talking about it? Or is it that they actually don't understand?
Do we have the resources to do what needs to be done? Finding the money is the easy part. That's the simplest part of this whole conversation. Where will the money come from? What matters is whether any proposed new spending carries heightened inflation risk. What doesn't matter is whether it adds to the deficit or whether it increases the size of the debt.
The government doesn't need your dollars to be able to spend.
It's not the government that needs the dollars, it's the rest of you that need the dollars. Everybody's, wait, what?
I did not fully understand everything that Warren was talking about on day one. It took me quite a while before it seeped all the way in.
Warren Mosler wasn't trained as an economist. He worked in finance. He was a bond trader. So financial markets and monetary operations were his bread and butter.
Here you've got these congressmen saying they need to get dollars first by taxing or by borrowing in order to spend them.
That's the only story I'd ever heard.
In fact, it's the reverse. The government, which is the issuer of the currency, has to spend first before it can collect taxes.
That is the crux of the entire economic system, and it was explained in 15 seconds.
Yep.
Was it not?
Yep.
And I still don't understand it, but that's okay. I don't need to.
We're going to play it back one more time. I'm going to play it back one more time because this is the crux of our economic system in a nutshell.
Okay. It seeped all the way in.
Warren Mosler wasn't trained as an economist. He worked in finance. He was a bond trader. So financial markets and monetary operations were his bread and butter.
Here you've got these congressmen saying they need to get dollars first by taxing or by borrowing in order to spend them.
That's the only story I'd ever heard.
In fact, it's the reverse. The government, which is the issuer of the currency, has to spend first before it can collect taxes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So just think about this, Jen, just to keep it simple.
I understand that they're the ones giving the money so that you have to pay. Like, I understand the premise. I do.
No, but what I'm saying for those that don't get this, right? And I was talking to you as my kind of whatever you want to call it, my fodder for the pitch, is that government needs us to need that money, because if we don't need that money, they can't provision themselves to do whatever they want to do. We won't work for their dollar. We won't do anything for that dollar unless we need that dollar. And the only way to really make us need that dollar is to impose an obligation, which is the tax, could be other things, fines, fees, penalties, you name it. But it's some form of tether, an obligation payable only in the currency. Now you have to do something to get the currency. So that is what starts the economic engine of the country, that need to satisfy the tax liability and the need to eat. And the two are not exactly the same, right? So
even if you're off grid, you're paying somebody property tax.
That's right. You are.
You're paying somebody. There is no off grid unless you're wealthy enough to buy an island, then I guess you could truly be off grid.
Well, there you go. So the tax is not a funding mechanism. The government isn't doing it so it can pay for programs.
Right.
Sorry. Sorry, Shama. Sorry, Jill. Sorry, all our, here. Sorry, Richard Wolf. Sorry, whatever. It's not. Period. Full stop. It's a fiat currency. Your beliefs, your heartfelt hope doesn't matter. The way it works is the way it works. And that's that. It's simple.
Yeah.
Well, think of it this way. When we were discussing earlier on Status Quo about Nancy Pelosi being able to get millions of dollars to pay off this exquisite French hotel in Napa Valley, that's an example of modern monetary theory working in real time. The government has issued money to a 5-star, $2,000 a night shitbag of a hotel. You know why I say shitbag? Because you have to be a shitbag to stay there.
Yep.
Anybody who would spend $2,000 a night on a hotel is worth probably tens of millions of dollars, because that's the type of money you have to have in order to spend $2,000 on a hotel stay for one night.
You got it.
So that's just a simple example. I could give you many others. Tom Brady got a $1 million PP loan during the pandemic. That is the government in modern monetary theory giving money to Tom Brady, a guy who's worth about $200 million, mind you, but he needed that $1 million extra. He really needed it. So
and they'll chase you down and take your home and put you in jail and literally garnish your wages if you even have a couple $1,000s in arrears. Believe me when I say this system is not about taking good care of us. This system is about keeping us tethered so that the rich can live in opulence, so that the other side, the capitalist class, the capital order, can live while we slave for them. Okay.
Well, they need serfs. They can't function without their serfs.
But I want to be really clear here, though. This system doesn't have to serve capital. This is the thing that a lot of these fools, that when you try and explain this to them, they go, oh, you're just trying to save capitalism. No, I'm not. Absolutely fucking not. Right? All the rules that allow for this shit that we see are made by a government that is fully captured by capital. Okay, by a government that does not serve the people. And you can go back to the founding documents to realize it never served the people. But we have always believed in our heart of hearts. And I mean, I'm no different. It's not like I'm like some guy woke up on third base and, thought I hit a triple. We're talking about literally every one of us at some point in time believed in our government, believed in these people, believed that it was there to serve us, believed that our military was fighting for our freedoms. At some point in time in your life, you believed this, and something jarred that. Maybe some people are still holding on to that childhood fairy tale. Okay. But in reality, once you understand the full capture of our government, the full capture of our institutions, and you stop thinking that this system is going to save you, is going to do anything for you. However, the very system we're talking about, fiat systems, okay, they've worked in every socialist country has them as well. Countries, monetary systems in general don't require pieces of paper. They could be tally sticks. They could be seashells. They could be teeth. They could be freaking hair. It could be anything. It could be things of tobacco. Okay. It could be coupons. It could be any number of things. It doesn't have to just be pieces of paper or coins or electronic anything. It could be whatever government makes law, and it's about government creating law. Everybody, we're going to create a private currencies, Bitcoin, all this other shit. And this stuff clouds people's minds because they don't realize that in a tiered system, Bitcoin rides over top of the fiat system. You have $500 worth of Bitcoin. You have $80,000 worth of Bitcoin. You have it's a commodity. It is an asset class, a digital asset class.
At the end of the day, all roads lead to capital.
That's it.
And it doesn't matter what form it comes in. And that's the thing. Like, I so see it. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I have fallen so far to the left. Like, I'm in the whole new, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Anyway, play the rest of this because it gets better.
Sparks a lot of debate. If I'm government and I spend $100 into the economy, the government spends 100 into the economy, taxes 90 back out. We record on the government's ledger a budget deficit of 10. Minus 10, government deficit. But we forget that on the other side of the ledger, guess what? When they spend 100 in and they only tax 90 out, somebody gets left with 10. That's your surplus. Their deficit is your surplus. Oh, right, you got your surplus from the government's deficit, and all of a sudden, they start realizing that they've been missing part of the story.
There it is.
Yeah, so here's where I feel like this story loses people. It's right. There's nothing she's saying that is wrong. I want to be crystal clear here, okay? But on that side where it says currency users plus 10, if you look at what we call stratification, and you start looking at the tiers of who has what percentage of that $10, you'll realize that the 90% maybe have $2 out of that 10.
Right.
The other 8 are all at the top. And so because of the way that our capitalist system works, because of the proclivities of these people that are puppeteers, that are, the political theater we call politicians, okay? Because of the dancing and the jiving they do. In reality, what their job is to manufacture consent with us, to make us feel something for the red, white, and blue, to make us feel like these things are happening, while simultaneously that 10 becomes 9 for the rich and 1 for the poor, instead of 6 for the poor. No rich, get rid of the fucking rich, right? Like, instead of that. So you understand fundamentally whose class interests are being represented. And this is my problem with Kelton's framing in this place, right? She's saying it's our surplus. The $10 is now our surplus. She's not doing the stratification there. And it's good cause, because at this point in time, all she's trying to get across is there are currency issuers and there are currency users. That's all she's doing at this point. She's not making a value judgment. But for people that are in class-based thinking, most socialists, most communists, most anarchists, most folks that have a class analysis, they don't start from understanding currency because they don't understand currency. I've found very few that understand currency. It's the few that actually get it that are trying to marry the class analysis and the currency issuance to show the huge break, the break in the system.
It's intersectional. It's a very big intersectional thing. But I think that the way she's doing it, really, it's like, this is definitely basic for people to just understand.
Exactly.
You're going to play.
Yes, I'm going to let it play. And what I think is great about this documentary is that you're not going to get it all on the first viewing, but if you watch certain things a few times over, it's going to start to make sense. I believe that.
That's when I show the sector balance graph to audiences. It's the most important chart in the world. Government deficits are almost always seen in a negative light. Nothing but a sea of worrying red ink. That's not how I look at it. Here's what I see. I see what's happening on the other side of the government's ledger. On the other side of the government's deficit is a non-government surplus. Their -10 is matched by a +10 on somebody else's balance sheet. So my red ink is your black ink. That graph is really the one that when I show it to audiences, it changes everything. So when you see a headline like this one, trillion-dollar deficits could be the new normal. This is meant to shock and frighten. But take a breath and read it this way. Watch the word deficit. Don't you feel better? Don't you feel better? Trillion-dollar surpluses to the private sector to be the new normal. Oh, all right. I'm down.
The Fed cannot tax. The Fed cannot spend. The Fed can only set interest rates. Interest rate policy is a very blunt tool.
I mean, you have to understand what the driver of the inflation is.
When you have a water leak flooding your basement, you better identify the correct source of the leak if you want to solve the problem. Is the inflation coming from an increase in demand or a decrease in the supply of goods and real resources?
Perhaps from a global pandemic that disrupted factories, workers going to work, supply chains, and shipping. Perhaps it's severe flooding that cut food production in a country by 90%. Or is it OPEC or an oil embargo increasing the cost of energy?
In 1973, the price of oil jumped 4 times higher than before.
So, what policies can address inflation by targeting where it's coming from? If it's coming from a shortage in the energy sector,
we can reduce our consumption of oil with policies to conserve, drive less, fly less, no fees for public transit, work from home, shorter work weeks, and we can also increase the capacity of that sector to relieve some of the pressure and bottlenecks.
You can actually spend money and reduce inflationary pressures.
Money that builds new capacity, building mass transit and converting to 100% renewable energy.
So, healthcare, education, housing, and energy and transportation. The Green New Deal includes those areas specifically, not because it's the favorite shopping list of the progressive movement, but because these are the sources of inflation. We're going to include them in the Green New Deal because that's how you increase availability, reduce cost.
or are corporations taking advantage of a natural disaster, war, or pandemic to mark up prices much higher than the cost of production? In World War II, they didn't just leave it to the market or the Federal Reserve's one tool of raising interest rates to manage inflation and allocate scarce resources. That would never have worked to prevent real shortages or rising prices.
Don't grab for more than your share.
But what if we want to increase government spending and the economy is already at full capacity?
Then the resources have to be freed up or created. MMT economists come in and show you what kind of a world is possible.
What can we do to improve our educational system? What can we do to improve our healthcare system?
Money is a tool, and we need to figure out how to deploy that tool.
I just want to empower people to fight back against
I didn't even realize you were in this.
That stand in our way of building a better future, building a better world.
Wait, I missed it. What did I miss?
Why aren't you watching, Jen?
Rewind it, Peter. Send it. Let her
that tool.
I just want to empower people to.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah, that's from back. You know when this was?
Yeah, but when
Otto
he said
came
you
and
were in
spoke
it,
to you
I thought
guys,
he meant,
brand new Congress.
No, he said you're in it. I thought he meant you were in it. I didn't realize.
No,
he meant
you generational Jen.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's right. That's me.
Yeah.
Should have been you and Corey right there, Jen. The two of you.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Okay. Yeah.
Fight back against all of the kinds of things that stand in our way of building a better future, building a better world. And many of the reasons that we've been told we can't build what we would like to build are not legitimate obstacles.
I think it's all right there in front of us. And that's why we encourage people to go and watch the documentary, Finding the Money.
I want to add something real quick. If you heard, one of the most important things that came out of that little segment that you played was they said, we can spend money to literally kill inflation, right? People have been so libertarianized in their understanding of the world, which is a shame. Why libertarians have anything to say about economics. But because they do so often, people have been convinced that printing money causes inflation. The reality is, it's horrible. It's the most ridiculously stupid thing a person could say, but they say it like freely, like they don't even have guilt or shame when they say it. Okay.
I just wish I could explain it better, Steve. So many people say it to me, and it's like, I'm like this person. You know how they say you got to put on your own oxygen mask before you help the other people? I feel like while I know what I want to say, I cannot explain it properly. But that is the number one people talk about is the inflation thing.
So what she's saying, think about it. Fadl Kaboub, who has been on our show 13, we have 13 episodes with Fadl Kaboub. Please come to Macro and Cheese and check them out. You will not be unhappy you did. But what they're talking about is building out capacity, building out shipping lanes, building out ports, building out the ability to get goods and services either produced locally for climate crisis. And then he made some very important conversations about World War II. Back then, instead of just leaving it to chance to the free market to figure it all out, they literally sold war bonds. They didn't say this part in that clip, but they sold war bonds to get people to have the mental capacity to stop buying things temporarily while the war machine had to ramp up to quote unquote win the war against Germany, whatever. I'm going to give the shout out to the Reds for doing their part there because they were the ones that did it. But that notwithstanding, the US, when we were going through that period, they had to delay purchasing power because every factory in the country was working on building stuff for the war machine. If you suddenly wanted some good or service that wasn't related to that, you were going to create inflationary pressures because there just wasn't enough of the productive capacity. That's what Kelton was saying. We have the real resources available to us, right? And so the idea of building up roadways, building up transportation, building up shipping, building up whatever to get goods and services through, building up our energy grid, building up whatever it is that we need. If we need healthcare, for example, right? Let's say we really mean it and we're going to do universal healthcare. We don't have nearly enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough hospitals. We don't have enough clinics. We don't have enough trained people and actually the goods and services necessary to provide everybody the kind of care that they need. So what would you need to do? You would need to preemptively create the real resources in preparation for going to a national health service. Then you could get rid of all the, well, there's going to be lines for miles and we're going to have death panels and we're going to have this and that and the other, right? All that would be wiped out. Okay. There would be nobody there paying to deny coverage, to deny services anymore because the insurance companies would be out the window. Right. So all those jobs would be gone. So what would you do to re-employ those people? And that's what they were saying. You would need to free up resources from here to redeploy them over there. And they used to understand that and they've stopped because free market capitalism does not like any form of central planning whatsoever. And that is the disease of libertarians. That is the disease of all who are in the duopoly, who think it's just cool to be capitalists, etc. We must understand that we need to be able, in order to provide a right, to guarantee something, you need to have the real resources in place to do that. And that's how you prevent inflation. Okay. The other thing is you got to have a government that functions, that's job is to protect the people, which ours does not do. People have shown time and again through the entire pandemic that corporations gouge the living shit out of us, creating inflation. Had nothing to do with printing money. Who sets prices? Think about this for a minute. Who's the price setter? It's these businesses. These businesses that are getting PPP loans, these businesses that are getting government contracts, these guys, and there's no stipulations on them because the government stopped reining in monopolies and all the power they have. They stopped reining in corporate greed. They stopped doing any of that. And they put the burden on all of us. And I think that is the message from that section, is that it's not about printing money causing inflation. It's literally about putting the real resources in place as one part of that to stop abusive monopoly behaviors is the other, and to literally have the government function as a government and regulate the marketplace and not allow for capitalism to devour us. But since capitalism owns this stuff, any fantasy of it getting better through the voting booth or anything else is a real stumbling block. And I think we need to address that privately and publicly.
I agree.
I think we are, and that's a perfect transition to our last clip, which of course is about Luigi Mangione, which, as we pointed out on our channel many times before, we pointed it out on Status
Saint
Quo.
Luigi, the patron saint of healthcare.
Mangione has done more to facilitate a sort of revolution towards universal healthcare with one shot. And that has done more than Bernie Sanders in 2 presidential runs could have ever done. Because now the people in power are actually scared shitless. You see it every day. You see it in the news coverage. And as you pointed out earlier, it doesn't matter that he profits through a form of mass murder. It matters that he's in the class. He's in the club. He is accepted. He may be murdering people, but as Bill Burr has pointed out, he's doing it clean. He's not actually getting his hands physically dirty.
Yep.
And that's acceptable. It's acceptable if you're an insider trader. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We say it all the time. They are so brazen in their corruption and their criminal activity, but they are a part of the club. And when you're a part of the club, you're allowed to get away with it. Well, perhaps things are actually changing now. And it only took one shot. Remember how it only took one shot to start the Great War? Well, maybe it took one shot to actually facilitate the workers' revolution in the United States. We'll know soon enough. But here's what's going on with Luigi.
I hope it makes them more accountable if you
Solidarity! Solidarity! Help overwhelmed! Okay, let's just do it. Yeah. Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed! They don't have to. Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed! Help overwhelmed!
Personally, I am not very optimistic. There have not been that much time yet since the arrest of this alleged shooter. So, but with the reaction that we've seen so far from the national stage, comments from the media, the actions of our local law enforcement, I am not very optimistic. It seems that they're trying to make this a symbol and make a symbolic punishment here of Luigi, the alleged murder. And instead, the mainstream media is not focusing on the fact that healthcare should not depend on how much wealth you have.
I mean, personally, if we're going with the notion that Luigi did it, and if you're assuming that, I don't feel scared. I think I share that sentiment with 99% of the people in the country, in the world, when I say I'm not scared of him if he was walking on the street today. And if you are scared, it says something about what your company or what your actions have caused normal people to go through. If your company profits off of the backs of people who need a service, require help, if your loyalty is with the shareholders, if your loyalty is with the stock price over giving health to people who need it, then it makes sense why you would be scared of that.
Most of the billionaires in this country, there's hundreds of them, and they don't want the attention, rightfully so. Because then the question comes in, how did you make those billions of dollars? How did you extract that
Politicians
capital?
do not work for you.
How did you steal that money? Day in and day out. Who can't get help?
I don't have a chance.
And most of them don't want to answer.
The media coverage of this is very skewed towards violence, terrorism.
Thanks for showing up.
Violence is the answer.
Alright, cool. I didn't realize it was like sarcastic.
Oh,
I was like, wait, I don't get how.
No, it's not sarcastic. Young people are stupid.
A point that, like, I'm okay.
Every single one of them at their time was discussed as a terrorist of
Exactly.
their time. And, you know, now we reflect back that because they actually made real positive change for the society by, you know, in radical actions, now we don't discuss them as terrorists. But after every time that they exist and they're doing their action, they're discussed as terrorists. So it's something to really just continue that conversation of...
I am not optimistic about our politicians, especially the old guard currently in office, especially these older people that make a lot of money off of stocks every year and that control government policies in order to make more money off of their stocks to benefit these companies so they make more and more money every year. I do not trust those people.
Her sign is cool.
In my best interest. I trust people like Bernie Sanders and AOC who've been saying the same message for decades. Well, AOC not for decades, but Bernie Sanders absolutely for decades. And yeah, I am a lot more optimistic in the American people, especially the American youth. If you're Republican or Democrat, I want you to come out and I want you to get involved in politics and I want you to educate yourselves. We're all together here, red, blue, there's no division. We're all in this together. This is our country. Let's fight for it, guys, okay?
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely they're making him into a folk hero. Because it's working.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, the reaction to his action by the powers that be has only accelerated his rise as a sort of Dark Knight / Joker-like figure. And I think it's only accelerating more and more people towards the mindset of it's single payer or bust. And that's a very powerful place to be, Steve. But as you've pointed out many times before, we cannot vote our way out of this. We can only fight our way out of this. And if it is a class-conscious war, which seems to be happening, and we all know that the powers that be are going to suppress our channel, they'll suppress others. That's why I was pointing out on Status Quo earlier with Jen, that when you see some of these channels that are seemingly on the side of United Health and against Luigi, they're doing it for money because they know that the corporate algorithm will boost their channel. Little do they know, especially as we saw, as Jen and I had pointed out with Ben Shapiro's channel, when he pulled that shit, and then his own audience was like, I've been rat fucked by this health system forever. Yeah. Who in the fuck do you think you are? I'll tell you who Ben Shapiro is. He's no different than Brian Thompson.
He's the anti-Luigi.
Yeah.
He's the anti-Luigi.
They're one and the same.
Yeah.
David Pakman, same thing. Tim Pool, same thing. With all due respect, guys, this is all about money and power. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah, they're on a grift. They're doing it for the money. I mean,
I don't believe for one fucking second that they believe it. They know that Mangione was justified. They know that this system is completely broken and that eventually the people are going to rise up. But for them, their attitude is, well, as long as I can grift my way to a few $100,000 or $1 million more, I'm going to do it because their moral compass is dead, doesn't exist.
I want to just say something. So one of the things we've talked about a lot since this happened, or at least that I've talked about a lot, Steve, and one of the things that I think I always sort of share with you is this concept as to what really is violence and what constitutes violence against us. And the idea that, you know, that austerity is murder and that denial of healthcare is violence. Imposing on my reproductive freedom is violence against me. And so what they look at, and by they, I mean the oligarch class that is so shocked that something like this would happen, what they look at as something that was done in cold blood. They like to use that phrase. He was killed in cold blood. That implies that it was completely unprovoked and he was just sitting there minding his business. No, he was involved in violence against thousands of people. And the fact that people don't see it as that is the problem. So I feel like it's incumbent upon me to consistently point that out. So you don't get to be committing violence and then act shocked when somebody acts in defense of others or in self-defense, because that's what it was. If somebody was standing on the street corner just shooting people and Luigi Mangione came and took him out, people would be singing his praises. Thank you for saving us. And you wouldn't go up to him and say, well, there'll just be someone else shooting up people again anyway, so why bother doing it that way? You wouldn't say it like that. And I'm just sick of it because to me, I feel like they're perpetrating violence on us. So it pisses me off.
If you go back to Michael Brown, and I think we all remember him laying in the street in St. Louis. Okay.
Yes.
I was doing videos called It's Expensive Being Poor. And I talked about how the local state police or the local police, et cetera, funds itself on the backs of poor people through fines, fees, and penalties. Okay. And I talked about at length, 100%, about how the system is used for violence, how all the austerity, when they reduce spending, when they do these, this is violence. Somebody, maybe not you, because maybe you did a couple good things with your investment portfolio, right? But for the average person, when they cut spending, your state government hits first, right? They start laying off people. Then businesses start laying off people. Then all of a sudden, everybody is in this pool fighting each other to work the second shift at night, third shift, whatever, at Walmart, stocking shelves. Suddenly they're driving 3 states away. Do you remember what it was like during the great financial crisis, how they would interview people from West Virginia talking about how they were driving from West Virginia down to Georgia just to get a job, blah, blah, blah. This is what they do to us. And believe me when I say this, a lack of rest is lethal to the body. We were made for rest. We were made for food, good food, not just fucking fast food, but good quality, nutritious food. Okay. We don't get that anymore. We don't get any of this. All of this is violence that has been brought on by a capital order that wants to make a better profit. So they put more steroids, they put more preservatives, they put more poisons in our food because it benefits the capital order, not the people that are consuming it. Every single one of the things that are done in society today have nothing to do with our benefit at all. In fact, schooling is there to teach us how to be good simps for the system, to salute the flag and be very proud of we're proud be American, where at least I know I'm free. And
Free to what? Free to be
shit.
a wage slave.
Every last fucker. And I sit there and I'm not gonna lie, I get shit in my own home for telling, I want my kids to understand not to be robots for the system. But the problem is there's a yin and a yang to that, right? You also don't want them to be outcasts. You want them to be able to not get beat up every day. You want them to be able to, survive and thrive and so forth. So how do you parent in this system while they're literally filling your child full of shit, full of lies, full of nonsense, okay?
I make my kids read James Clavell, a children's story. Have you read a children's story by James Clavell?
No, I have not.
Okay, you need to read. It's
Next
like
on
it would
my
take
reading
you
list
like
now.
it's like it would take you like less than an hour. I mean, not even. I mean, like it's a kids for kids.
Right. Real quick, I want to say something. I remember going back to 2015, 2016, when Debbie Lusignan, Debbie the Sane Progressive, was around. And for those who don't remember her,
when I first found you was her and Claudia and you.
Yeah, and I was, me and Arn Manconi and Claudia did this thing, Love Progressive Style. The three of us did a show together. Yeah. We did all kinds of fun stuff back in the day. But Debbie, as she kept going further and further away, there was a group of people, okay, that before they knew anything had already come up with the reason why it's not true. Luigi's been set up. He's not really the killer. So-and-so didn't do it. He's not really the killer. They're so fucking sure that they know this. I don't want to get caught up in that stuff. I don't care really at this point. I mean, I don't have any impact one way or the other.
That's not relevant to the main part of the
It's not the point. The point is that we are being killed by a system, and somebody, rightly or wrongly, stood up against that system. Okay. And what I'm here to say is that a lot more of us need to get real comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. And that means that, I'm sorry, your I voted sticker and I phone back for Bernie and all the other stuff that makes people, AOC and all. I love you, AOC. You know who I'm talking. You know the type, right? We got to get people like that to wake the fuck up.
They need to take the red pill. And unfortunately, but it's like some of them, I've always thought like, okay, I've had this thought like, My mother-in-law, for example, is an example of someone that if I could hold her down and strap some sort of thing that infused cannabis smoke into her mouth to just like force her to have it, to make her even be able to like just, I feel like we might have to force feed people the red pill at some point.
Yeah, no, I've tried to explain this. I think we talked about it last time. If not, I would like to reintegrate this into the convo momentarily, and that's the kayfabe that came from Mr. McMahon, the series on Netflix. It's very important to understand everybody's not necessarily looking for the answer. They don't necessarily want to know the truth. They like these lies they've told themselves, and they like this world they've concocted. And this world, as fake as it is, works for them. And it allows them to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night. And this kayfabe is part of this whole, it's cosplaying life, okay? And it's an agreement where we kind of go into this thing and we'll pretend like the government is telling us the truth, and they'll pretend like we really like them, and they'll go back and forth, and this is really reality, but it's really not. And that's the thing, every single thing you hear from our government. And I hate that this is true. It's not like I want this. You understand? Right. I don't want this to be true. Do you understand how badly I don't want this to be true? Yes. But everything that comes from our government's mouth is a fucking lie. Everything from why, like when you think about this, the United States after World War II was the only superpower left unbombed to hell and back. So that's how the dollar became the dollar standard around the world. They created institutions to reinforce that arrangement through the IMF, the World Bank, all kinds of international kind of NGOs and all kinds of stuff to bring about this U.S. hegemony. That was the beginning, the true beginning of empire. Okay. And everything that we do now is about keeping and maintaining that empire. And when you think about what the IMF does, the IMF goes to global South countries that are dollar poor. In other words, they don't have US dollars, and they need things that the US dollar can provide. And so they offer them loans that require massive structural adjustments. Just like the fine print on an IMF loan is, you've got to let every corporation come into your country free without blocking anything, without, it's literally opening your entire country up to the invaders. That's what you get with an IMF loan. And this is how the U.S., through debt peonage for them, that's how they need the dollar. That's their version of the tax. Even though they're not U.S. constituents, they pay a tax in the form of debt peonage for IMF loans and the need for the dollar to buy oil and other such things, okay? So when you understand the way the banking system works with reserves, they don't use the dollar in their country. No, they don't have a choice in having faith in the dollar. It's not a faith issue. You don't pay your tax, you get a bullet in your head, you go to jail, something happens, right? And these countries, you don't pay your debt. Guess who's coming to visit? A CIA coup. They're going to put a new guy in there that will pay the debt. They're going to do whatever it takes. And this is the answer to every question. Once you start realizing what we're dealing with now is no longer a democracy. It never really was. It never was a democracy. But we're dealing with an empire that is doing everything it can to maintain itself, while the BRICS are not going to take over. I hate the enthusiasm is so overwhelming that it's like you don't want to burst their bubble. We've got a bunch of podcasts on the BRICS. In fact, we got another one coming out right when, not this weekend because we took off, but the following weekend we got one with Yan Ling, who's a Chinese MMT economist who does all of her work in Beijing for the most part, and really is a guru on the BRICS. So the entire episode is called Bricks by Brick. And it should be really, really good. I hope you enjoy it. If you listen to it, you'll love it. But it breaks down the stuff. And unfortunately, the BRICS could just as easily impose the same kind of structural hierarchies that we've got in the SWIFT system, which is a US-based system. So there's no guarantees for anything. All that you're seeing, which is the positive, is countries saying, we no longer want the empire to be able to control us through dollars, by being able to cut off our assets, by being able to shut down the system like they did to Russia. That damaged U.S. credibility on the world stage. And unfortunately, shitlibs celebrated because, you showed him. Okay. So I hope of hope. Peter, I see the thing you said. What story link? Which one are you talking about?
That's for Colin.
I was just going to say about like my thoughts on BRICS is that I just think, how dare countries want to trade in their own currency? Who the hell do they think they are? Don't they need to pay like the what is it, like the cheese tax or whatever? Like, I feel like we're the schoolyard bullies and people have to pay us for protection. And the fact that BRICS wants to get out from under the crippling nature of sanctions from us and what we have done to so many countries, that I like and that I support. I don't think it's saving us from anything, but if countries want to trade in their own currency, I'm very supportive of that for them.
Well, it's trading between countries, right? So even in their world, they're not going to have a common currency. I know there was some people that don't understand stuff saying stuff like that. That's not what they're gunning for.
Yeah,
really, it's going to be a basket of cards. They're working on their own reserves too. They're working on how they're going to do this, whether it's going to be special drawing rights or whether or not China will honor their local currency as payment or whatever. So there's a lot to be worked out. It's a human-made system. It's not some God-breathed system. So the warts of ignorance and the warts of whatever will come out, and the great things, the good aspirational goals will show through as well if they exist. Hopefully, and I happen to be a big fan of China. Okay, hopefully China stays in this kind of cooperative arrangement and doesn't become the U.S. big bully using its big power to shut down folks. But they really invested in their Belt and Road Initiative. They really invested in ports. They invested in shipping. They invested in all the technology, the energy, you name it. And so the real question will come down to, are they willing to share intellectual property with underdeveloped countries that have been kept intentionally poor by the U.S. system, that has 90%, by the way, of the potential labor force of the world in the global south right now, that is laying dormant because they don't have the technology to develop the things. So this is how they're being held in the U.S., and they're blocking technology transfers. Question is, will China do technology transfers? Will other people choose to violate patents the right way and literally allow these countries to build in their own backyard instead of being predated upon? These are all questions that are outstanding, that haven't been firmed up yet. But you begin to understand, even in a BRICS system, guess what? MMT will still matter. MMT still will describe the BRICS system. This is the most important thing to understand. It doesn't matter whether or not you like BRICS better than this. The fact of the matter is MMT will still describe BRICS. I don't hear enough people talking about that. I do. MMTers I hear talk about it, but I don't hear others. They're like, yeah, they're going to be no way MMT don't matter. No, it does. It'll matter even more because you'll need to know more. So anyway.
If you are so inclined, guys, as we often will recommend, Steve's links are in the description. So make sure that you are subscribed to The Real Progressives as well as the Macro and Cheese podcast, which is taking off this week.
Steve, look away from the chat. Look away.
I know, it's hard.
Chat.
You see knuckleheads saying stupid shit like, look, China. It's like, God help us all. No wonder we can't have nice things.
There's certain people, but yet I appreciate that they watch us, and hopefully over a certain amount of time. Well, you learn baby steps.
I think he's going to be bigger than that, Chris. I think he's bigger than that. There's something very significant about what Luigi did that I don't think people in this moment still recognize, how much things have changed. They may not see it. But now, as I would tell Steve, as it relates to electoral politics, I do think that there is going to be a consensus among people that are still involved that will say, if you are not supporting a single-payer healthcare system, then there is no way that one can justify their support anymore. If there's one thing this past decade has shown us, is that it doesn't matter if a Democrat or Republican is in the White House. Corporate special interests have completely captured our government, and as a result, we are slowly but surely sinking down that hill. Now, for the longest time, it could be perceived that going down that hill was going to be a nosedive with Republicans and 1,000 paper cuts with the Democrats. The Democrats, probably since, you could argue that it really started with Bernie's run, but in the last few years, they've decided that they are going to do a nosedive, just like the GOP. So now there's no stopping it. The question is, do we educate enough people about how the economic system really works? And are there enough people who have had enough of genocide, of not having health care, and having an economic system that only works for a very small percentage of the people who live here? It's not even an 80-20 balance. This is literally like a 1 to 2% balance, and the 98% have to struggle to survive.
Yep.
That's not going to last. And so how we get through it, we're not sure. But one thing we know, if there's one person that we love to cross-pollinate with, it is Steve Grumbine. We are always appreciative of you being here. And thank you for the knowledge. And we certainly hope that in 2025, we'll have another wonderful, long, drawn-out conversation about how we're fucked, but maybe we can fight our way through it.
Sounds good. Hey, let me just tell you one thing. I hate to be the guy that leaves you with an egg, but I'm going to leave an egg for you.
Okay.
There's no guarantee that it gets better.
Oh,
right?
no.
There's no guarantee that we win. And see, this is the problem I have when you explain to folks how tall the wall of water is that's coming for us, right?
Oh.
When you explain it to them, it's like, well, there's no chance we're going to do that. And you know what? The odds are against us in terms of getting everybody on board, getting people to stop saying stupid libertarian shit about money, to stop getting people to say dumb shit about all the other. It's impossible to fathom the whole working class uniting, but that is literally got to be our goal.
Yes.
And the problem is that it can't be an ignorance, right? This is where the balance of learning and understanding and also taking action have to come in hand. And the action that we have to take, because we're not ready. Look, unions aren't ready to take on the big corporations. They've been gutted for years. Unions are just starting to find their way. We're not ready to take on this big thing. It doesn't mean that we don't start working now, though, to do it. And this is the problem. We have to build resiliency. We've got to build the kind of lawyer guild. We've got to build the communications network. We've got to build the education network. We've got to build, like imagine a much larger, broader kind of Fred Hampton movement. We've got to build that right now. And it's not fun. And I'm sorry, you don't get to vote your way out of it. I know that that's what people want so badly, but it's not it. It's not it. And because you want it to be doesn't change the fact that it's not it.
I know.
And so I'm hoping that out of your program and Jordan and the work I do and the work all the others do, Ben Norton, you name it, all the people that we've mentioned, I hope that eventually gets people to that point. But unfortunately, you got a lot of factioning still, a lot of factioning.
I know.
And we got to overcome that. We've got our own issues to solve before we can take on the big thing that we have to take on. And
I know. I like my goal would be general strike May Day 2028. Like that is when the unions, my understanding, are arranging to all have their collective bargaining agreements up for negotiation.
Yep.
I don't think that's a coincidence. And I think that is like, that would be, that's like what I would, that's in Gen World, that would be the case.
True North right there. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You got it. Thank you, guys. Come on anytime you need me. Take care, y'all. Right. I appreciate you having me on. Don't forget to check out Macro and Cheese, please, folks.
Check out Macro and Cheese.
Links in the description, guys. Have a happy new year. Merry New Year.
Merry New Year.
To you as well. Take care, everybody.
Appreciate you, Ben. There's obviously a lot we can learn from Steve and from a lot of others, but we highly encourage you all to go out and watch that documentary.
Mm-hmm.
We highly encourage you to.
It's like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The guy, or it could be scanners where the guy's head explodes, literally.
No, just the whole concept for people really freaks them out when I even explain to people in my most rudimentary way that tax dollars don't pay for anything when it comes to the federal level.
And as El Dadachi says, who unfortunately lost his mother to this very system, tell your healthcare insurance nightmares so we can keep this going strong.
So I don't personally have health insurance nightmares. I have health insurance pain in the acidness and inconvenience and difficulty and complication. And that's as a result of being in a privileged position where I, at the end of the day, have had health care available. But I will say that one of the things I am very aware of as being a healthcare family, my husband is a urologist, and in his practice and in things that I've seen over years with him practicing, I've seen the nightmare side of it, that it is from the healthcare provider's perspective as well. That is something that I am very keenly aware of. And the nightmare that it is for doctors, in a sense of, he would love to not have to deal with managed care anymore, more than anything in the whole, like, they have entire staffs that have to be there to deal with ridiculous nonsense, the amount of hoops that they have to jump through for patients to be able to get stuff that they want, arguments that he has to get into with some bean counter on the other end of a phone so that to make sure his patient gets what they need, that kind of shit. So that I am very aware of. But no, I personally do not have a health insurance nightmare other than being overcharged, having high premiums, like that. But I have not had like death and destruction in my personal vicinity.
Well, I came close, which is why I fight with you guys and always will, especially on healthcare.
Almost doesn't count except for horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
Nadia, who is coming in hot all night.
You got to go call about a bunch of them out. A bunch of super chats we got.
Getting into the more recent, she passed away. Thank you for the $2. Another $2. YouTube is censoring historical precedents names. Of course they are. So they don't
wait. What is she? What is she referring to? Young Turks?
No, YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. I'm like, okay, YouTube censoring historical precedents names.
Nadia with the $5. New Angela Collier vid. On first read, she took Atlas Shrugged as parody, like Swift's A Modest Proposal. Galt's Gulch was especially laughably implausible to me. Yes, well, Atlas Shrugged is, the ultimate.
Nadia, you strike me as like a contemporary literature major somewhere out there.
Nadia with the $2. Lay people don't grok having less cash as less demand. I would agree. Lay people. Sajid Nasir, thank you for the $4.99. Is there anyone else besides you, Sabby, Brianna, Jimmy, that see through AOC's fakeness, attention grabbing, and other lefties don't? I think a lot of lefties are just trying to clamor onto something, some type of a leader. I think people feel that AOC is that person. The biggest problem that
content creators, a lot of it, and I hate to say it, but it's true, is they're not going to go at her because they want to be able to have her on as a guest.
Well, that may be true, especially with Sam and Emma recently. But what I will say, and I've always said that I think the biggest issue with Alex, she's not a leader. Like, she's just not.
No.
She's a very, very mediocre orator. And I say that in the most endearing way possible. She is not ready for prime time.
Right. Like she's like
I point, you know what I point back?
Class president.
I point back to that incident that happened earlier this year with Jasmine Crockett, who was a guest, who's been a guest on our show a couple of times, and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has not been a guest on our show.
She'd be fun to have on, though. I could actually see that being fun.
No, I can't see that being fun. Okay.
Well, I would make it fun. But Marjorie decided to name call in a very crass way at Jasmine. And instead of Jasmine dealing with it herself, Alex decided to jump in and make it about her. And I remember telling Jen in that moment, this is why she's a joke, because she was looking for a viral moment for herself. And I can only imagine Jasmine thinking,
oh, And the thing is, that was then and probably still is completely lost on Alex. That in that moment, that the message was that Jasmine can't handle herself.
Yeah.
What did this have to do with you? But the thing is that boy, did Jasmine come back in there.
She did. And even though Jasmine
was petty and ridiculous, but damn, it was good.
And don't misunderstand, Jasmine Crockett is as establishment gets, but the difference between her and Alex is Jasmine doesn't pretend that she isn't. She 100%.
No, she's who she is. She's who she is.
Absolutely. Now, I do think that she's probably right on a number of issues, but
she could sure shit defend herself against Marjorie Taylor Greene.
But you better believe that Jasmine Crockett will do no such thing to help us get to single-payer health care. That's never happening.
No.
So you have to use what you can where you can, but it is on us. Now, what I will say about Jasmine Crockett compared to other members of the establishment, do I think Jasmine Crockett is the type that is going to fight against us to get single-payer? No, I don't get that vibe from her. I think she should stay out of the way. That's it. Mark J, superb convo. Thank you for the $2. We
do our best.
We do our best.
We do our best.
Nadia paying for us to keep the lights on, I guess. Nadia with the $5. Austerity is a neoliberal neologism. Neologism. First word for 850 years was siege. Plus the size of the prison industrial complex belies U.S. punitive freedom. Well, the truth is we have the for-profit prison system because that is our modern day slavery.
Yeah, no, we don't have freedom. No. And that really it comes when you take that red pill and you can see outside of the matrix and realize that even the people that think they're free are basically just wage slaves. I mean, into some regard. Now, the people that are higher up on the food chain that aren't struggling, they don't need to recognize it because it doesn't affect their life. That's why they don't see it. But at the end of the day, we're all working for capital. Thank
Teresa,
you so much, Teresa.
You are amazing. Appreciate you as always. And finally, last but not least, one more time, Nadia with the $2. Uniparty equals a so-called democracy is a rigged sham. It is.
Well, I personally have come to the conclusion that democracy cannot coexist with capitalism. And as a result, we are an oxymoron in this country. So just the idea of it, we're Jews for Jesus. I always like that one because it's so just like it's this ultimate paradox. So how can we be both those things? We're not.
Well, if Marjorie,
about those things.
Well, if Marjorie were to come on, she would have to do it in her white fur coat. She'd have to wear the fur coat.
You're wanting her to come on as a caricature. You're wanting what's her name? I'm drawing a blank. That does the impersonation of Pelosi and Kamala Harris. Carrie?
No, to look her up now. Thanks. Now we put on the spot.
Sorry. But I was just thinking if somebody did a Marjorie Taylor Greene impersonation, that would be the kind of thing you're looking for. We couldn't really have a conversation. I know the problem is that I don't generally like to, I don't share my bullet. I don't. I have shared it with Peter on occasion, but I generally do not like to share my bullet. It's not my thing. I'm more than happy for other people to have their own, and I'm more than happy to fill other people's bullets.
Make sure that you smash the like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you share this conversation. And if you are so inclined, please go over to patreon.com/generational change.
You can support us.
For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. We got up to 200 live viewers tonight. That's only happened a few times in the history of our show.
It's exciting.
It is. It is. And we've gotten some contributions too, which is sweet. We've gotten some new YouTube members, maybe some new patrons. I think it's fantastic that you guys have been here for the full 3+ hours that we've been going.
Awesome.
But we are growing, and we are about transforming politics into service. That is our message, and I think we do a fairly decent job of it. So if you believe in what we're trying to do,
Although I'm starting to get out of that. Like I'm sort of more with Steve. Like I'm not into the whole politics. I'm just into the service part. And I don't know that any of the people in that system can be reformed over. I don't know. I just think that, yeah.
maybe not. But I also think that the message is in sync with politics itself.
I guess. But
we are trying to be
people we have, it's the people we want to have in those positions.
And one more for the road, apparently, unless anybody else has got one, because that's the only thing that's keeping us here right now. Remember the money. We're not about the money, but we care about it enough.
What do we have coming up? So what do we have coming up on Monday?
We do not have anything scheduled yet for Monday, but I will work on that because, of course, that is part of my job.
Well, I'm happy to like brainstorm and reach out to people. Well, yeah, I'm just you're usually.
Well, the top guest that I would like to have on right now is Jamie Peck for obvious reasons.
That'd be great.
Messaged her, emailed her. Jordan just had her on. I'll even message him to message her to even give her a little bit of encouragement. Love to have her come on. Sajid Nasir with the $5 again, or $4.99 to be exact. Thank you very much. When AOC got the vaccine, when supply was dire, showed who she is, while Ilhan Omar waited until the most vulnerable need. And again, as we've said time and again, if you want to see the difference between a real public servant, even though she plays the game, a real public servant is not AOC, it's Ilhan Omar. And that is a person who faces real threats to her livelihood every day. And not only that, but she is also an exceptional orator and one of the most effective legislators in all of Congress, and she wears a hijab. So if you think it's not about the job, it is. Because I was one of the few people that got to ask her a direct question.
She's like a ninja princess when you meet her in person. She really is. She's so like, she has a presence about her.
And so, and thank you very much, Schultze, for the $4.99. Much appreciated. And so
thank you. We're going to be working on a good repertoire for this coming year. We'll have good people.
And just so you know, I got a message the other day from Keaton Weiss. Due Dissonance does want to collaborate with us in the new year, so I will keep you posted on that. But the question that I had asked Ilhan was simply this: when you consider all the scrutiny that you deal with on a regular basis, how are you one of the most effective legislators in all of Congress? And she, in a very not direct shot at somebody's specific tone, but in a way she did, says, because I actually read the bills and I actually do my job. And I know who she was talking about. And
well, but here's the thing. Most of them don't read it.
No. But when
she actually reads the legislation.
When Ilhan has been, and Rashida as well, Melanie, yes, 100%. When you are at one time or another the fourth most effective legislator on the Hill, and then you look at AOC, who's in the bottom 10, then you know who's really prioritizing the job versus the person who's prioritizing the career. There is a difference between the two.
Well, and the thing is this. So Ilhan is also very exceptionally bright. Okay. So she also is a very smart person. So not only is she capable of reading the legislation and doing the work, but she's able to understand it and add to the conversation. That is not necessarily something Alex would be able to do. I don't know. I don't find her as bright as I find Ilhan. And let's not forget, by the way, not that, look, I don't agree with some of the things that Ilhan has signed. I don't, but I don't say I do. But I will say this: English is not even her first language. And she understands and reads the policy. Like, that's how smart she is. Like, it blows me away. And we have the majority of people in Congress that English is their first language. And they don't read. And they don't read the legislation. And they wouldn't understand it even if they did read it. And that's what's sad. So that's what makes her effective, is she's bright and she reads.
Agreed. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We are very grateful for each and every one of you that are here. The channel is growing. We're happy to have you all on board. Have a wonderful evening.
Travers, you spelled Feinstein wrong.
and we'll see you Monday.
Bye, guys.